Hey, welcome to Lombardi's Legends podcast. It's Dane here with Wags. Wags, what is up? The Packers are 2-0, folks, beating some of the best teams in football from last season, the Lions and the Commanders, both at home. Now heading to the road for a week 3 matchup in Cleveland, a sneaky team. There's no doubt about it. We're going to be talking a little bit about last week. We're going to be talking a little bit about this week. But first, Wags, how you doing, man? Happy Packer win week.
Yeah, no kidding. And it seems like it's been a minute since we talked. So we had the Thursday night game last week, but what a nice way to start off the season. Of course, it was a huge win in week 1, but then on a short turnaround, it's always going to favor a home team. I don't remember the last time the Packers have had 2 back-to-back home games to start the season. I think having a home game in week 1 was the first time since I believe 2017 or 2018 season. So it's been a minute since the Packers have even opened in week 1 at Lambeau, let alone getting 2 home games right off the bat. So, but look, there's as much as that usually favors the home team, the younger team, and the Packers. That was something that we thought might have an impact, and I think it did. But the Packers looked prepared. They played a clean game again against a quality opponent, and that defense came out and backed up that big week 1 performance on a short week to be able to execute at that level against a high quality team and offense like Washington Commanders was extremely impressive. So couldn't be happier with the Packers, obviously being 2-0. But it's a long season. There's a long way, a lot of football to go. And so we can't be celebrating anything just yet. We're going to have to go out there and see what they can do and start stacking up some more victories here.
Yeah, you said it. And Xavier McKinney, I think, said it right. Now, I'm not going to use the colorful language he used in the locker room, but he alluded to the fact that a lot of teams start 2-0, but then they look not so good later in the season. I think I'm saying that nicer than Mr. McKinney did, but that's right, Wag. So a lot of football ahead of us still, of course, this season. But my gosh, couldn't be more excited about how this season started so far. Wags, anything from last week against the Commanders that really stuck out to you about this ball club, just in general?
I mean, just a continued play, a high level play from I think everyone, but specifically Jordan Love. Talked about it before the week 1 game, and wanting to see him come out ready to go, take it to another level with his consistency, eliminate some of the mistakes that we saw from him at times last season, and just really clean in terms of the offensive execution and operation. So I certainly don't expect that he's going to go every game this season without turning the ball over. But that's really nice to see that that's something that has gone pretty well. But how can you not talk about Tucker Kraft as the really big performance coming out of week 2? You called it, Dane. He was your X factor. You said he's going to make a name for himself with a national audience. And listen, I've listened to some other national shows, and Tucker Kraft's name it keeps coming up on people's lips. So I think your prediction on that was spot on, not only for the performance, but Tucker Kraft has done all the things to get himself noticed in a good way. So I think there's a lot to build on, certainly. But overall, how can you be anything but super pleased? Now, one bad thing that happened is certainly the Jaden Reed injury with the broken collarbone, and it looks like yesterday or Monday he went ahead and did surgery on his shoulder and also his foot. We talked about offline. Would this be maybe a little bit of a silver lining? Certainly we didn't want this injury to happen, but that foot seemed like that could have been a problem throughout the year with the Jones fracture. But he went ahead and and took care of both the foot and the shoulder. I don't know if that changes the timeline for when he's going to come back, but even if it pushes it out a few weeks or maybe even 3-4 weeks, he's still going to be able to return most likely with a good portion of the stretch run of the regular season. So I think that's the only silver lining with Jaden Reed's injury is not only is he going to be able to return this season, most likely, he was able to take care of that foot that could have been potentially a problem later on this season, by knowing that he was going to be out for an extended period of time anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really good that's a good point. I mean, I think you're right. You had mentioned offline. To your point, it's been a minute since we've been able to hop on the pod with the Thursday game, but we were talking offline. You said, hey, maybe he could double dip a little bit and take care of the foot and the clavicle at the same time, and that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, that's really good news. Wags, I gotta
let me jump in though. Let me jump in, Dane, and set you up because we certainly are appreciative of our sponsor, Rehab Lab Wisconsin. And Rehab Lab clinics and practitioners work both with world-class athletes in and out of season, as well as patients who simply want the lead time to get a healthier, more active lifestyle. So in honor of our sponsor, Rehab Lab Wisconsin, Dane, we want to be able to set up what the doctor orders segment, looking back to that win last week. So what was that moment that you knew was delivering the victory for the Packers?
Yeah, you know what, Wags? It was Tucker Kraft. It was Tucker Kraft catching the ball, and he sets a tone on offense, right? We say he throws blocks. He does all the things you ask a tight end to do, but also he's so good with the ball in his hand. So really, I think this week's just what the doctor ordered was getting that ball to Tucker Kraft early and often and watching him not only catch the ball smooth, but it seems like every time he puts the ball in his hands, his run after the catch is tremendous, right? So you touch on Jordan Love looking really, really strong yet again. But really, I think this week it's Tucker Kraft, just what the doctor ordered, making plays after the catch, doing the dirty work as a blocker in the inline, and just really overall bringing an attitude to the offensive side of the ball, to kind of that mean streak on the field. So I think Tucker Kraft this week and his play overall was just what the doctor ordered.
Yep, absolutely. So, Dane, I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off a little bit. What was going to be kind of your other question or observation coming out of last week?
Well, it just real quick was you mentioned the defense, but I mean, week one against Goff, the Lions turn out to be able to pour on 50 plus against the Bears this week. And the Packers made the Lions look pretty pedestrian. And then this past week, going against Daniels, who had an incredible season last year as a rookie, and making Daniels had some spots, but overall, Wags, they made him look extremely uncomfortable. They made him look like, like he was hearing footsteps. They were getting him a lot, right? And they were getting him off his count. So yet again, Wags, I think the defense, the pass rush was there, and then it makes a lot of guys look really good on the back end. And really, Keyshawn Nixon, Wags, holy smokes, ton of pass breakups, all in there. And then Carrington Valentine, who for whatever reason doesn't seem to get all of the love, right, all the time, but he's a guy who I think is ascended, right? Every opportunity he gets to be on the field, he plays good football. So K9 playing really good on one side, but I thought Carrington Valentine yet again had a really good game with the opportunities he had on the field, and it all starts up front with that pass rush. So just defensively, it's not like we're playing quarterbacks that are kind of in that bottom tier, right? We're playing quarterbacks that are upper echelon quarterbacks in this league. And for 2 weeks, the defense has just done their job. And more than that, they've looked dominating at times.
Yeah, I kind of in the same vein as I said, I don't expect Jordan Love to go all season without turning the ball over. I don't necessarily expect this defense to go all season without giving up a touchdown in the first 3 quarters of every game. But just speaks to how impressive it is. Not only is just giving up 31 points total to 2 offensive teams that I think both averaged 29 or 30 points a game last season. But really, they've only given up 3 touchdowns in 2 games, and 2 of them were in garbage time. It didn't matter. So, I mean, you just can't be any more impressed with what they're doing. Again, it's a lot of football to go, but that's got to give you a ton of confidence, and these guys a ton of confidence that they can go out there and basically compete and win any week. So there's going to be ups and downs, but you can hang your hat on a solid defense, and even if they have a few weeks here and there where it doesn't look quite as dominant as it did these first 2 weeks, I think it's something that we'll be able to ride throughout this season as long as we can keep all these guys healthy. So, Dane, I think one slight negative, special teams has reared its ugly head a little bit now. Thankfully, this wasn't a game that got too close for the majority of the time, but first week there was too many penalties on special teams. Other than that, it was fine. But last week we had missed field goal. Coverages were not quite as good. The Commanders were able to get some pretty nice returns in both the kickoff and punt returns. Again, not the cleanest in special teams. So something to keep an eye on. I know there's been some rule changes with kickoffs and coverage, and those things can happen, but it's kind of frustrating that it hasn't seemed to go away in terms of some of the things that we've been seeing on a recurring basis on special teams. I'm not concerned about McManus missing a field goal. I think he's going to be fine, but the reality is it's I think something to keep an eye on. Special teams can certainly play a big impact on your ability to win and lose football games from week to week.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Wags. And I think felt a little bit of Bo Melton not being out there too, who's a really tremendous special teams guy. Good news is it looks like he was limited today with the injury. Wags, do you want to look at this injury list a little bit? I mean, I think we got some good news as we look ahead here.
Why don't we get into it? Yeah. What are your thoughts? Aaron Banks and Zach Tom were both limited participants in practice today.
It's huge news, and I think I read somewhere. I think Bill Huber, one of the beat writers from SI, I believe, Banks told him that he was good to go. I don't want to put it out there, but I think Banks is going to play on Sunday, which obviously adds a lot of depth. And then Zach Tom, Wags, I mean, that's the one I'm really, really circling. Of course, we want Banks back as well. But Myles Garrett is sitting there in Cleveland, one of the most ferocious pass rushers in football. Zach Tom was quoted today as saying, he's feeling good enough, I believe was the quote. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic that he was, good to be out there even in a limited capacity today, because this is a Browns team, Wags, and we'll get into a little bit more. We can touch on some of these other injuries, but this is a Browns defense that is put on the pressure over the first couple of weeks. So I think the priority is to get our offensive line back intact as quickly as possible. But I think it's really promising to have both of those guys limited already on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how they're feeling later in the week, but it would be great news. And granted, I thought we did pretty well with both of those guys out. Anthony Belton got the start, and then I know that he and Kennard rotated series. A little bit of a rough start for Belton, getting a holding call right off the bat, but seemed to settle in, and if they were running the ball behind him, I thought really well, particularly in the second half. And then certainly Morgan, we'd expect the coaches even have said, I heard LaFleur say they consider him a 6th starter at this point. So the expectation should be that Jordan Morgan steps in at any of the positions that he can play, guard or tackle, and can get the job done. But I was I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but pleased to see that Kennard and Belton in particular were able to step in and play as well as they did last week. But that said, you couldn't be more right. This is a different animal when you've got Miles Garrett and company. This is a good Browns defense,
Oh, yeah.
and they really are. They may be a little shakier on the back end in terms of their coverage, but if you can't protect the quarterback, it doesn't matter. How often do we see that? We're seeing that with the Packers defense literally right now, right before our eyes. So yeah, getting one or even both of those guys back for Sunday would be a very, very nice development. And hopefully, they can just be fully healthy and ready to go. Dane,
Yeah, Wags. I'll tell you what. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, there's a lag there. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just gonna say, I just looking at the rest of the injury report. I mean, things look pretty good. Otherwise, I mean, we talked. You mentioned Bo Melton. It would be nice to be able to get him back if that's a possibility. But the reality is I think everyone else that's listed here should be in pretty good shape. I was a little bit surprised that Nate Hobbs played last week. So he's still listed on the injury report this week, and he may not be quite 100%. The fact that he got out there on a short turnaround when he didn't play in week 1 and played on Thursday, I didn't expect to see that. What did you see from Hobbs, and how can his presence potentially help the Packers as we head into week 3 and hit the road in Cleveland?
Yeah, what I saw from Hobbs, Wags, it was he's a gritty player. We saw a little bit of it in camp, but then he was down in camp, so he is not afraid to jam guys at the line of scrimmage and be physical at the line of scrimmage. So it's what's so fascinating, and you asked me directly about Hobbs, but it's fascinating about the guys the Packers have brought in free agency over the last 2 years or so, and in the draft too. There's an edge to a lot of the players here. That's something that we're seeing, right? And I look at the Tucker Crafts on offense, but defensively, of course, Micah Parsons. But if you kind of start to go down the list, right, of guys that are playing ball right now in Green Bay on the defensive side, they play pretty angry and they play physical and they play aggressive. And that's what I saw out of Hobbs. And it adds that depth, right? Because I already mentioned Carrington Valentine playing really good ball. K9 playing some of the best defensive football of his career to start the season. So it just adds that depth along the cornerback group. So I was pleasantly surprised as well to see Hobbs out there. And, hopefully there's more to come there because, we're going to be facing some top tier wide receivers throughout the course of this season, right? I mean, heck, just in the NFC North alone, there's some really good talent. But, I have a lot of respect for McLaurin, the wide receiver from Washington, and the Packers more or less kind of kept him at bay. I think he had 40 or some yards receiving, but he's a guy who can really get you. And I think that Hobbs was a big piece of that along with some of the other guys you mentioned. So just exciting to see Hobbs back out there. And I expect him to get better and better as the season progresses. And he's getting more football under his belt this year.
Yeah, I think just jumping over to the injury report on the Browns side, I think the two names that stand out most to me, and I'd have to look, admittedly, a little bit further into this, but offensive lineman listed there, Joel Battagno is your left guard, and then Jack Conklin. Conklin was a limited participant today, but he's their starting tackle. Both of those guys are nursing some injuries. Conklin with the elbow, Battagno did not participate today with a back. So I don't know if that's more of a veteran rest situation, and we'll see him participating and ramping up to go for Sunday later in the week. But with the way that this Packers defense can get after, with the pass rush. The Browns on their offensive side are not as strong as their defense is. They can hardly afford with Joe Flacco back there potentially to be leaky up front. And so I think that's a development that's worth keeping an eye on as we get later into this week as well.
That's a great flag, Wags. And anytime, right, the offensive line and against this defense right now with how they're flowing, that would be a huge problem for them. Offensively for the Browns, Wags, who stands out? Does anybody stand out to you? Because I mean, we know this defense is really good in Cleveland. So don't let the 0-2 start fool you, folks. They're in the top 5 in a lot of the categories right now, and that's even after playing the Ravens. The Ravens game, if you look at week 1, I think the Ravens put up 41 points, but they also gave up the offense gave up a touchdown to the Ravens defense and the short field. And right, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But overall, this Browns defense is really ferocious. Offensively, I think they're still trying to get their legs under them a little bit here early in the season. So, Wags, like, what's the key, do you think, for the Packers to beat this Cleveland offense? But also, does anybody really stick out to you? They got some young running backs. Like, what does this look like to you?
I think mostly they're pass catchers. It's not like household names, top of the league trio, but Jerry Jeudy is a talented young player that came over from Denver. Cedric Tillman, third-year wide receiver out of Tennessee. I think he's really coming on. Has a couple of touchdown receptions already in early on in the season. He's someone that Joe Flacco has been targeting a lot. So maybe not a name that a lot of average football fans would be familiar with, but he's a talented player, a talented young player, and potentially someone that's making that third-year jump. And then, of course, at tight end, they've got David Njoku, and he's a talent as well, and he can give you headaches if you let him get going. So I think Flacco, he's not someone that should scare you, or this defense, but he can still fling the ball. And so he's got some weapons, those guys that I just mentioned, that I think certainly have the ability to go up and win, and can beat you. Do I expect the Browns to have the horses offensively to be able to pick apart this Packer defense? No, not based on what I've seen the first 2 weeks. Heck, I wouldn't expect an average defense from past years to really struggle with this Browns offense. But you have to respect the talent that they have at those positions. And can they beat you on any given play? Absolutely. We've seen tight end is probably the one area that the Packers have been, I don't want to say picked on. They've done fine, but that's really been the only area that's, either Detroit or the Commanders have had any success. So I think Njoku would be someone to keep an eye on, but they do have some guys in Tillman and Jeudy on the outside to watch for as well. And you know that if Flacco has time, he's going to fling it vertically. So that's something the Packers are going to have to be prepared for. They have not been tested vertically at all in the first 2 games. I think the Browns are probably going to say, the heck with it. What do we have to lose? Let's see if this defense actually can defend the field vertically. So I expect them to take some shots, and the Packers are going to have to be ready for that.
That's good. Is there any chance we see Dylan Gabriel, their draft pick this week? I believe he got a couple touches last week. And then, of course, the rookie Judikins, who just recently signed. And then Dylan Sampson, the other rookie, 4th-round guy, who played pretty well in the first week. But any chance at quarterback in particular? Do you think Flacco plays this game? Do you think that's Cleveland's plan? I know we're Packer podcasters, not Browns podcasters, but, any chance we see maybe, a youth movement afoot in Cleveland pretty early this year?
I mean, it's certainly a possibility. They kept 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So, that tells you that I don't think they're expecting necessarily that Flacco is going to be the guy whole season. Or, let's be honest, Flacco's what, 41 years old?
He's older than we are somehow.
Yeah. So is he going to last 17 games is the other part of the equation. It's certainly a possibility. I don't know how the Packers can sit here and be like, all right, we've got to prepare for Dylan Gabriel to come in and play this game until it happens. I'm sure they maybe have some preseason tape and have some things ready, but that would be certainly an interesting change of pace that could throw a wrench in the game plan to a certain degree. But look, Dane, you just looking and just be perfectly honest with you. I just, at the end of the day, this should be a mismatch on paper between the Browns offense and this Packer defense. I've got respect for the Browns defense. This offense, like, I'd be terribly surprised if they have more success than what Detroit and Washington was able to have against this defense in the first 2 weeks. But who knows? Maybe they'll go down and score a touchdown in the first drive, and that can change the complexity of the game a little bit if the Packers offense is a little off kilter in their first road game. So, we got to be prepared for anything. But at the end of the day, I think this should be an offense that the defense should pretty well keep in check at worst.
Wags, offensively for Green Bay, I mean, against this defense, I think there's a couple of things. I'm curious your take as well. Name of the game is going to be taking care of the football, not giving Cleveland short field to work with, not shooting ourselves in the foot. I want to see Jordan Love continue to put together the resume that he's starting this season. You said it, Wags, before the first game of the year. You said, we want to see Jordan Love kind of take that step. We want to see the consistency. I think through 2 weeks, he's played really good football. There's some throws I'm sure he'd want back, but overall, he's playing really good ball, and I expect that to continue. So I think it's taking care of the football and somehow trying to get a run game going here. We've got Jacobs on the ground. We've got, hopefully these offensive linemen are back in Tom and in Banks, and we're kind of at our critical mass of 5 that we want out there. But how do you see this Packers game plan playing out against Cleveland? Because again, they are fast on defense and they can do a lot of damage against you if you let them. So do you think this is more of a Jacobs game, a Love game, a little bit of everything game? Because I think LaFleur is definitely going to have to game plan against this Cleveland defense.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been tough sledding for either of the Browns' opponents to get anything going on the ground, and that includes the Ravens and Derrick Henry, by the way, last week. So I think Derrick Henry only had 23 yards on like 10 carries last week against this Browns defense. Yeah, it is incredible, particularly given that, granted, the Ravens put the Browns away later in the game, but that was a 41-17 Ravens victory. So you tell me that the Ravens beat the Browns 41-17, I'd say, how much over 100 yards did Derrick Henry get, right? But if that script holds, I think the Packers are going to try to get the run game going. Absolutely. They tried to get the run game going in the first 2 weeks, kind of got it going in the second half of both of those games, but it's been a little bit tougher earlier in both those games. So it's most likely, it looks like so far at least, and I don't think the Browns are going to change this. I think the game plan against this offense right now is for opposing defenses to make the Packers throw the football. And Jordan Love's done a pretty good job of that so far. But I don't think that's going to change until it really has to. And with the Packers going on the road, it's going to be interesting to see if Jordan Love is going to have as much early success as he had in those first 2 games. I certainly think he can, and I hope he will. But that's really where the Browns defense has been a little bit more susceptible. Now, they held a high-powered Bengals pass attack in check in week 1. So I will see. I don't expect this to be an easy, as you said, this is going to be a tougher game offensively, I think, for the Packers to get things going. But I think, certainly you're going to have to get the play action going. So you're going to have to do something to make them respect the run, but maybe some misdirection with the tight end group with Tucker Kraft or Musgrave or Sims. Certainly may get a few additional looks. And then I'd love to see Matthew Golden get a few more targets this week. He was just off in terms of the timing between he and Jordan Love from having a really big game last game, but just a little off in terms of some of those deep throw timing. That's going to come. I am fully confident in that. Maybe it happens this week. That would be spectacular if it does. But even if it's not the deep vertical connection, I think there's other ways that they can take advantage of Matthew Golden's skill set. I'll tell you what, I'm letting my eyes kind of drift over to see him off ball. And, the dude's working, and I think he's getting open. And so I think the opportunities are going to come his way. And that could be something that happens for him this week as well.
Yeah, no, I hear all that loud and clear. I think this is going to be maybe to some fans a surprisingly physical side of the ball. The Browns defense versus this Packer offense. Wags, this Packer offensive line is pretty damn physical right now. You mentioned at the top, Jordan Morgan, effectively a sixth starter. He's been great this year. He's been really, really strong wherever he's had to, they've lined him up, guard, tackle, whatever. So yeah, I think that we're definitely going to see some ground and pound out of the Packers, even if we're frustrated, right? If maybe Jacobs isn't getting going, I do think the Packers are going to try to stick to the run and try to find some lanes against Cleveland, maybe try to wear them down a little bit. But I agree completely. At some point, I think this Packer offense is going to go vertical, and probably this is an opportunity this week where the Browns on the back end might have a little bit of difficulty with some of the speed Green Bay has at the wide receiver position. So I'll be curious to see how it plays out, but I do expect Jordan Love to be able to take care of business a little bit this week and air it out.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Dane. I think it's time. Let's ready to get into some X factors.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to set you up. Let's start on the offensive side.
Yeah.
I kind of gave it away in what I just said. So I'm just going to jump right in. Unfortunately, my X factor extraordinaire and Jaden Reed has gotten an injury. He's going to be out for a while, but don't worry about it, Dane. You know me. I love my Packer rookie wide receivers. I almost took him as my X factor last week. I kind of wish I would have, because then if he would have had that long touchdown reception, I would have been like, this is glorious. Something must have told me to hold off a week. So this week is the week Matthew Golden is going to have his breakout NFL performance. I don't know what that means exactly, because he hasn't had a ton of receptions yet in the first couple of games, but I think he's going to have an impact on this one. And therefore, I'm going to have him as my offensive X factor.
It's great. I mean, that's exactly in line, right? I mean, I think that's a really good choice there. Wags, I'm going to go outside the box. Normally we go position group. I'm going to go Zach Tom going against Myles Garrett. We've seen game wreckers wreck Packers games. We've seen our own game wrecker, Micah Parsons, wreck games already here in Green Bay. Zach Tom, is he able to go? Yes, I think he's going to be able to go. Is he going to be able to handle Garrett one-on-one? I think he's going to be able to do it more often than people give him credit for. Zach Tom is a great offensive tackle in this league. And everything starts with, if our 5 can take the Browns 4 up front, we're winning the football game, and we're probably winning pretty big. So I'm going Zach Tom, X factor offensively this week, because he's going to get tasked with Myles Garrett, and he's going to play a hell of a game for Green Bay.
All right. I love it. Flipping over to the defensive side, who do you got for your defensive X factor, Dan?
Yeah. So, you mentioned Cleveland, maybe not as good offensively, right? And I think there's a fair number of mismatches there. So looking at it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with Devontae Wyatt this week up front in the middle. I believe he was an X factor of yours week 1. I'm going to go back to the well week 3. He's played really good football. He's had really good pass rush on the inside, been disruptive in important moments. And Cleveland, I think, is going to want to run the football early with some of these young backs that they have. And it's going to be incumbent on Green Bay to be able to stop the run. I think that Wyatt's going to be disruptive there. And then he's also going to be able to cause some pressures up the middle, whether it's Flacco or whoever else ends up back there at quarterback for them this week. It's going to be Wyatt being a disruptor on the defensive side. So I'm going Devontae Wyatt as my defensive X factor.
Great. I'm going to pick a cornerback this week, and the guy I'm circling is Nate Hobbs. I feel like we we've only forced one turnover on the defensive side so far this season, as good as defense is playing. And I'll tell you what, I think this is a week if we can start getting some pressure on Joe Flacco that he's going to turn us the football. So I'm looking for someone in that secondary to get some game-changing INTs. And it was between Hobbs or Valentine, but the reason I'm going to go with Hobbs, Dane, is I really like, you said it earlier, grittier player. He clearly fought to get out there and play on a short week last Thursday, which was a surprise to me. Love that. And he's a Packer free agent. I think this is his moment coming into his second game to put an imprint, put his name on it and say, oh yeah, it's not just about the other guys on this defense. The Packers also got me. So I think Nate Hobbs is going to come up with a big play to turn over the Browns in this one. So for that reason, I have him as my defensive X factor.
Love it. I love it. You're right. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Only one turnover. I think it's because the Packers have been forcing so many 3-and-outs, to be honest with you. I'd say that kind of in jest, but maybe not, right? The defense has been so stellar. Wags, who you got winning this football game and what's the score?
Yeah, I was trying to decide how many points the Packers can get in this one and how many they're going to give up. And I believe the Packers are 7.5 point favorites. I've got them just barely covering the spread. I think this is going to be a slog. First road game against a good defensive team. I think the Browns might put up some early points and then the defense clamps down. Ultimately, I've got the Packers taking care of business, pulling away at the end, but just barely. I've got it 23-10 Packers over the Browns on the road.
Okay, a little lower scoring. I respect that. I've got the Packers putting up a lot of points this week. I got them at 35-20. Green Bay wins the ball game. I think that the defense does their job. I do think that there's going to be turnovers. Cleveland has offensively. They're going to have trouble against this defense. I think it's going to be too much of a handful for them, and the offense is going to work and do what they do. So I don't know if there's a defensive touchdown this week, Wags, but there's going to be some short fields for Jordan and this offense to work with. So 35-20, Packers win. We go to 3-0.
Dane, I'll tell you what, I'll take the win any way I can get it, but this is not your Green Bay Packer defense that's given up 20 to 30 points every week. If they give up 20 to this Browns team, I'm going to start to question whether they're as good of a defense as I think they are. So I'm not going to say I'm going to be disappointed if the Packers get a big win and give up 20 points, but they shut down the Lions and the Commanders. Get that negativity out of there. This defense ain't giving up 20 points to the Browns. That's not happening. I mean, unless something crazy happens and they get a pick six and a special team touchdown, they're not getting 20 plus points again in this game. It's just not happening.
Only on this podcast can we predict the Packers winning by 15 and there's negativity. I love it.
I'm just saying, I don't know that my first prediction was going to be 19-10. I bumped it up to 23-10. So I'm a little negative on the number of points they're going to get. I hope you're right on the offensive output and I'm right on the defensive output. Because then that equals that's 35-10, right? We'll take that to the bank all day. But as unrealistic as we are about predicting a Packer win every time we do this podcast, we're both willing to be realistic about how many points the other team's going to get or lack thereof from ours. So anyway, we'll take it however we can get it. Dane, anything else that you have just to say about this one before we close this out?
No, man, I'm just excited. I mean, it's so fun to be 2-0. Watching the Bears have struggles, watching the Lions be kind of who we thought they actually are this last week against the Bears. They're a good football team, make no mistake. Vikings, watching their quarterback struggle. Sounds like he's injured now, and they might be going through some difficulties there. I never wish injuries on anybody, right? But what I'm looking at here in the North is all of a sudden I see a window. right now in Green Bay to, win some football games and hopefully get some distance against the Lions and some other teams. But it starts here against Cleveland this week. So it's a big week. It's always a big week in the NFL, but getting a road win early this season would be really, really good start.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. As always, be legendary and go Pack Go.
Pack Go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack Go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will